This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is Josh Allen, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap here with the Trash Man to go over the Week 11 waiver wire. We just got the waiver wire cheat sheet over from Trash Man. I didn't have too many changes on it. Messed with a couple of things. Trash Man, your general overall view on the cheat sheet for this week, your view on waivers for this week. No Cody Carpentier to argue with today about his cockamamie takes. So we're going to get in, get out, get through this. If you guys in the chat want to ask us any questions about players that you can drop, I'll add them onto my list here of people that have already asked questions on the site or on X about whether they can drop them. So get those in the chat. And just before we get started, a quick reminder to go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. I mean, it's an awesome way to just get a bunch of extra action with the pick'em stuff. Right now, I believe we're hitting it either 60 or 61% on the season for our underdog picks on the pick'em show and on the website. We publish that free on Friday. You can use promo code ROSTER for a 50% deposit bonus up to $250 at Underdog Fantasy. If you've never played pick'em before, it's super easy. All you do is you go in there and you look at the projections for certain players, and you decide whether you want to go higher or lower. And so if you think somebody's going to go higher than like 75 receiving yards, you just say higher on that player. It gets added into your entry, and then you go to another player and do the same thing, higher or lower. And as you put together a little ticket over there, you put together an entry where you can make up to like 100x your money if you have enough of these players in there. So make sure and go check it out at Underdog Fantasy with the sign-up code ROSTER. That gets you a 50% deposit bonus up to $250. All right, Trash Man. The waiver wire this week. What do you think?
I mean, I don't think there's really anybody to break the bank for this week.
I kind of think that you can break a little bit of the bank for Audric Estime.
I mean, there's certainly an argument for that. It was weird that Javonte Williams just was not really involved at all. I feel like that probably won't be the case on a weekly basis, but
I don't know. I mean, it's just during the game it felt like a true takeover. It felt like a true takeover. And if you say that I mean, I just put up the matchup tool, and dude, the matchup tool is doing something. I need to look into this whole thing with Tennessee because they're saying it's like a top 12 matchup for opposing quarterbacks, but it's like the worst matchup for opposing widers. What?
I was about to say, yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah, so it's like there's something going on with Tennessee and the matchup tool that I'm going to have to go ahead and manually adjust because it's like the toughest matchup for opposing wide receivers. So I need to look in to see what that little bug is. But I mean, one thing that I do know is that Kansas City's tough to run on. You know what I mean? Like that's just and so it's like you do it in a tough environment. My one concern was is Audric Estime making a fumble. I believe 2 fumbles to start the year. It got him in the doghouse. But then Sean Payton's talking about we need to get this guy more involved, and he seems to have some juice that Javonte just doesn't have, right? And if I was looking at the I don't have it up right now, but I was looking at the upcoming schedule that looks really good. Maybe you just look last week, and only 29% of snaps for Javonte Williams only had 3 touches. It felt like he was more than that.
No, he only had 3. He played 17 snaps, 17 of 58 snaps.
And Audric Estime in 45% of snaps, 14 touches. Now, no targets, but 53 total yards. So obviously looks a little bit better. At worst, this is a split backfield moving forward. At best, this is Audric Estime starting to take over. So I know there's one league where I've been kind of holding on to that number one priority as far as waivers. I'm thinking about using it on Audric Estime this week. He's certainly my number one target because it feels like these upcoming games. All right, so this is what I was looking at. Next 4 weeks, weeks 11, 12, and 13 going into their bye. And then right after their bye, they have Atlanta, who is, and they
are great matchups. I mean,
the
Vegas
matchup tool,
is a good matchup.
yeah, I mean, the matchup tool changes from week to week, but because it takes into account the projected game scripts and the Vegas lines and the over-unders, the totals, stuff like that, right? Projected pace of play, whether or not it's a pace-up game, stuff like that. But you can still pretty much tell, how it's going to be for these games. So he would face Atlanta, which is the number 8 matchup on the week this week. Las Vegas, or I'm sorry, Atlanta, which is Atlanta actually is not as good versus running backs as I thought. It's a number 8 matchup for wide receivers. It is a kind of middling to a little bit bad matchup for running backs. You have the next game though is
Vegas.
Las Vegas. That is the number 3 matchup for opposing running backs. You have Cleveland, which is nothing to worry about as far as opposing running backs, and then you have Indy, which is I know they're good. It's top 10.
It's like a middling.
Top 10. Number 9 on the matchup tool this week is Indy. So estimate for me. You can look at the waiver wire cheat sheet to get the exact budget. I don't love it. I'm not saying it's an I think it could be as good as it could be without an injury or something, or James Conner gets hurt where Trey Benson becomes available or something like that. I'm not sure we're going to see something that occurs with just somebody just overtaking, has a chance to overtake a possible lead role. So I don't know. You seem like you're probably would you give up the number 1 waiver priority for Audric Estime this week?
If I needed the running back help, I mean, if I needed the running back help too, I mean, like Jalen Warren and Gus Edwards and Tyjae Spears and Trey Benson and Ray Davis are all possibilities too.
I kind of put Audric Estime a little bit of a tier above those guys.
That's fair.
And I mean, you did too on the waiver wire cheat sheet. So,
yeah,
talk about the other ones. What about Jalen Warren? I think people are going to be kind of hot on him. I'm not sure
he's getting a lot of touches.
Yeah, man. I mean, and like we've never really liked him.
Well, he doesn't score.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean,
but
he doesn't have a touchdown on the season, and that kind of limits his upside. I mean, even last week he had 16 touches. I mean,
11 the week before the bye.
Yeah, I mean, but it was just like, last week less than 10 fantasy points altogether.
Pittsburgh's playing football games though, and they're running the ball and they're playing well.
But look at this schedule they have coming up. It's a sea of red.
What is it?
Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Philly, Baltimore, KC.
Yeah, it's not the best. But certainly it's. I mean, this is waivers we're talking about. We're not talking about players that we're drafting here. It's like you can go after him. How do you stack him? How do you stack Jalen Warren up versus some of the pure kind of handcuff dudes?
Like a Trey Benson?
Yeah. I mean, Trey Benson's starting to get run earlier and earlier in games.
He is. I mean, I like Benson's upside more. I just don't feel like Warren really has much upside. I mean, he's going to get the touches. And that's why I have him as high as I have him. But I don't really see a whole lot of upside out of Warren. Whereas somebody like a Benson, somebody like a Davis.
Those guys can change the entire outlook of your roster if anything happens to the player who are in front of them. It's like a Braylon Allen or even though, gosh, the Jets, Breece Hall has been tough to depend on lately. Man. What about Tyjae Spears? Looks like I know that Tony Pollard got a little bit banged up during the game. I couldn't tell what was going on because he ended up coming back. But Tyjae's back. He looks good. He's got juice. That's for sure.
It's a Jalen Warren kind of situation for me there too. Just I don't really see him as a goal line prospect, and that offense just isn't performing at a level where I really want a piece of, a running game in which, the player probably isn't going to be in scoring position very often. Like Tyjae Spears, 1 touchdown on the season. He had double-digit touchdowns this past week. But again, a tough schedule coming up with Minnesota and Houston up next. I mean, I think it's more of a value suck from Tony Pollard than it is really, just like a boon for Tyjae Spears.
Is Gus Edwards just a value suck for J.K. Dobbins?
I don't think so. I think there's some standalone value there.
I think so too. He's not going to get targeted.
Yeah.
So do you have the Chargers' upcoming schedule?
Yeah, they got Cincinnati, Baltimore, Atlanta, and KC. It's not easy.
And those don't project as games where they just get up on somebody and just hand it to Gus the whole time, right? Yeah. So, Gus is worth picking up though. Like all these guys.
They end the season strong. The Chargers do they have Tampa Bay, Denver, and New England. To close out the fantasy season.
Okay, so those are the running backs that we would be looking at. Of course, Trashman goes. This thing goes like 25 players deep at the running back position. Looks like he's got 90 players on this cheat sheet. So if you're in a super deep league and you're like, oh, those guys aren't available in my league, you can go look and see where he has you. Picking up guys like Jeremy McNichols and Keaton Mitchell and stuff like that. Okay. Wide receiver. I think people are going to go run to pick up MVS. I could not believe that Bizarro World game. I just could not believe that.
You can't believe it. He does it at least twice a season,
Just the one time. He had this one like super un-MVS catch, like kind of in the back of the end zone, streaking across the back of the end zone where he makes a good hands catch. It's like, that's not an MVS catch. The first one, the long deep ball was. But I just don't know, man. I don't know if I mean, do you think they're going to shut down Chris Olave?
I think they might. I mean, if it ends up looking like a lost season.
Well, that interim coach doesn't think it's a lost season. Rizzi or whatever. He's gonna go out kicking and screaming. He probably wants to get that job.
The thing is, I don't know if but the thing is, they have a bye in week 12, so I don't really see him coming back before week 12.
Okay. Yeah. But week 12 is a week away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like you got maybe it could be just 1 week of this MVS stuff. And who knows? How many targets did he even get? 3?
No. I think he caught 4 balls.
What am I getting it mixed up? No, he had 3 targets and 3 catches for 109 and 2.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, it's crazy, man. MVS just coming in and just ruining that the bet in the circa millions on Atlanta. Just unbelievable. You should never bet against the dead cat bounce from the interim coach. Teams always cover whenever they have an interim coach.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, I mean, if you're gonna pick up MVS and play him, this is the week to do it.
I haven't even memorized the matchups yet. Who do they have?
They're playing Cleveland this week.
Cleveland, the number 3 matchup on the matchup tool that will get corrected here in a minute as far as this Tennessee thing. There's some input that's coming in there for Tennessee that I don't understand, and I'm gonna have to look into it here after the show. What about Ricky Pearsall? Big game.
Big game. I mean,
looks good.
Juwan Jennings, I mean,
looks great.
And I think you can. I know he was too high to put on the waiver wire cheat sheet, but
if he's available, I mean, he's only rostered in like 60%
of leagues. He's available in 40% of leagues. So I'm going for Jennings.
I would have Jennings
ahead of.
I would have Jennings. Like Jennings has actually been legit good, And the only issue with Jennings, whenever everybody was healthy, is now going to be the issue with Ricky Pearsall, because the issue is, and it's what Shanahan has said before, is he doesn't like to take Kyle Juszczyk off the field. And to have Juszczyk and Kittle both on the field, you can only have 2 wide receivers. And so it's Debo and it's Juwan Jennings and his binky man, like his lover boy, Juszczyk. It has to come off the field to get Ricky Pearsall on the field. But I just think if there was ever an injury to any of those guys, I think you would get not only the efficiency of Pearsall that we saw, where he can just drop a big play on you. I think you also give him a little bit of volume. And I think for now, I think he's a fine guy to roster. And I think that his value skyrockets if anything happens. Not even to Jennings, or it doesn't have to be Jennings or Debo. Who can get banged? They've been banged up anyway, right? But it can be Kittle. It can be McCaffrey. I think that just kind of opens up.
No, he's a good piece to have on a good player on a good offense.
Yeah. What about Quentin Johnston? Is at this point is it too much to ignore the volume? I don't think the volume was necessarily there for him.
The volume wasn't there for anyone. Like Will Disley led the team in targets with 6 targets, I believe.
Yeah.
This past week. So the volume wasn't there for any Chargers as far as the receiving game goes. Quentin Johnston caught the touchdown. So to me, that still gives him a little bit of juice.
Whenever you read off those upcoming games, though, did you say that there was going to be a horrible?
I think we were looking at running backs.
But
no, for receivers, it's not a bad slate.
Yeah, man, I don't think it's bad. Like we get the Harbaugh Bowl, right?
Yeah, you get Baltimore in week 12.
Yeah, and what were the other ones?
Well, you get Cincinnati this week, Baltimore, then Atlanta, which is fine.
Okay.
You get KC in week 14, which isn't great, but it's not terrible. Then you get Tampa Bay week 15, which is excellent. Always. You get Denver in week 16, which is tough. But then you get New England in 17, which is middling.
There's some questions in the chat. Minion Hunter, good to see you, brother. Thank you for tuning in, man. Okay, so he's saying Bateman ahead of or behind Jennings if both are available. I would want Jennings over Rashad Bateman for sure. I know you're a giant Ravens fan, though, Minion.
You have to think at some point, it was Deontay Johnson being there. And Tylan Wallace is making plays now.
Dude, he was the key to the showdown slate on Thursday, man. It's crazy. Look at this guy. He's been a maniacal roster watch member since 2012. Thank you, brother. We can't tell you how much we appreciate that. Love you, man. More home loans. If you need a home loan, make sure and look those guys up, man. More home loans. I think interest rates are dropping. So hope
so.
Call our guy at More Home Loans. Jason Ortiz has a question here. Will you trade Darnold, Garrett Wilson, and Cedric Tillman for Jaden Daniels, Adams, and Harrison? Yeah. Yes.
I don't know. I don't think I would.
I think the Jets are so dysfunctional right now.
But Wilson seems to show up every week regardless.
Yeah, but I just think you're buying. super low on Marvin Harrison Jr.
But you're also getting another Jet. You're trading a Jet for another Jet.
No. All right, I would take it. Trashman wouldn't. And then he's asking, would you trade Pollard for Ridley or Ladd? I wouldn't do it.
Yes.
I wouldn't do it for Ridley.
I would. Ridley's been murdering it.
You don't think that this stuff with Levis is just a mirage? Like, I was really worried about him with Levis this past week. Maybe I shouldn't have been.
Well, he was doing well without him. Like,
I know, that's what I'm saying. Levis coming back is one of these situations like Anthony Richardson possibly coming back, where you're like, dude, I don't want that to happen.
Right.
Or the wide receivers.
But
he was fine last week. If you want to do it, it's fine. It's back. It was back to a 54 to 46% snap split between Pollard and Tajay this last week. if you need help at wide receiver and you can get value out of Pollard, I wouldn't hate it. I think I might prefer Ladd, but
Really? Lad doesn't.
yeah,
Lad
the
doesn't.
volume's been bad too for him too, right? Like, no, the volume was bad this last week.
I mean, well, he had that big game in week 8, but aside from that, he doesn't really score. I mean, they're not really high.
Here's the thing: I don't like it. I'm not super high on any of those 3 players.
I feel like Ridley's.
I feel like
been
he's needing to
picking
make
up steam.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so any other wide receivers you want to hit on before we play the drop game here? I have a whole list of players.
I mean, Mike Williams in Pittsburgh, he caught the touchdown on his one, reception. I think his looks are going to go up, week by week.
He only played like 8 snaps or something like that, but I think he ran a route on every single one.
Yeah, it was his first game there, and I feel like that's going to improve. Mac Hollins has been sneaky good in Buffalo.
Oh, he's not going to be anything once Keon Coleman comes back and Amari Cooper.
I mean, I don't know. It seems like he's got a rapport with Allen. Adam Thielen comes back this week. I might want to wait and see what happens there in Carolina, because I don't think they can maintain more than one, kind of go-to receiver on a weekly basis. John Mechie looks like he could be that third receiver in Houston. Could have some value down the stretch for sure. Always
loved Mechie, man. I've been waiting for him to get his shot.
Yeah.
Maybe this is it. Let's see. Matt Cassidy's asking if you can. Can you drop Kmet? I'll add Kmet to the list, Matt. Rest of season. Outlook on Ridley worth trading a 6th round pick. A 6th round pick in Dynasty? Or
I think so.
Oh yeah, a dynasty rookie 6th rounder. Yeah, that's worth peanuts. If for some reason you can trade, if your league allows trades of future picks in a redraft, that league is. I wouldn't be playing in that league. You shouldn't be able to trade future picks in redraft leagues. Okay. And the reason why is because it can screw up the competitive balance for everybody else. It's like there could be a team that's dying to win this year, and they trade away.
He says it's a keeper.
Okay. Well, it's got to be at least a keep, like keep 5 or something like that if you're going to be trading these kinds of picks. And I would make the rules. I would look into your rules, and I'm not your boss, I'm not your dad, but like I would look into the rules and make sure that you can't trade. I'd change them to where, the only picks you can trade are like picks rounds like 8 or later or something like that. Because here's the thing. We've gotten in this situation before where, teams that are winning are trading away like 1st round picks next year to get the players to win, which not only hurts you now, but it hurts you next year when you got to go up against a dude that's got 2 1st round picks. It's like it messes up the competitive balance for years. All right, here we go, Trash Man. Isaiah Likely, can you drop him?
Yeah.
Caleb Williams?
Yep.
Devin Singletary?
Yep.
Cole Kmet?
I don't want to drop Kmet yet.
You don't ever want to drop Kmet. Would you drop him for Will Dissly? Is the exact question?
Let me take a look. Yeah, I could drop him for Dissly.
Yes. Keon Coleman.
For one of those, for like a Quentin Johnston.
Yes.
That's tough.
We don't know how long he's going to be out.
Yeah, we don't know how long he's going to be out. In that case, yes.
Keenan Allen.
No, he's still leading that team in targets.
Roma Dunze.
I could drop him for a Quentin Johnston or
they're just changing their offensive coordinator.
I mean, I like Roma Donze as a player. I like his upside. He's big playability.
I'm not going to drop Rome for like QJ, I don't think, or Pearsall.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody.
I would hang on. Let's just see how the offense looks this week. Whenever they get after they get Shane Waldron out,
yeah,
they could knock some sense into him. This is where it starts. Somebody asked about Quentin Johnston, so I wouldn't drop him for.
No, I wouldn't drop him.
All right, this is where it gets hard. Jordan Mason.
Yeah.
Okay. Tank Bigsby.
For an Audric Estime, yeah.
Javonte Williams.
No, not yet.
Xavier Worthy.
Yes.
Jake Ferguson.
No.
No?
No, tight end's a bad quarterback's best friend.
Not this week.
No.
Jordan Addison.
Yes.
An Insta yes?
I mean, I wrote about him in my AP article this morning. I mean, just look at his season. He's had 2 games over 50 yards. And Hawkinson coming back sapped his value big time this past week.
DJ Moore. It's been terrible for 6 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, God.
I say wait.
You want to get value out of Moore. I'd hate to just drop him onto the wire.
Wait, let's take the same approach that we're doing with the other ones. Let's give him 1 week, dude.
That's fair.
Okay. Can't believe I'm asking about these two. Deontay Johnson. Somebody asked.
No.
It pains me to ask this, trash man. Pains me. Like you've never heard. Is it okay to drop Chris Olave?
I wouldn't drop him for any of the guys on the wire this week.
But would you drop Chris Olave? would you drop Chris Olave if Juwan Jennings was available?
Yes.
This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to Roster Watch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're